The people living in the house across the street from mine always kept their lights on. It gets on my nerves. It also costs them a fortune. I don't even see the people there. I see one car that just sits there. One night I heard a ruckus from over there, so I called the police at 12:43 a.m. The police showed up 14 minutes later, and at 12:57 a.m. I kept track of these times because you never know what may have happened. The police rang my doorbell and I answered. There were two officers. One was medium-sized and mostly bald, but looked around 35, and the other officer was shorter and rounder. He had a really well-groomed mustache, and he was resting his hands on his belt, but only by separating his thumb from the rest of his fingers between his belt. "We got a call from this number, reporting a disturbance. Was that you?" the taller officer asked. "Yes, it was me, officer." I ended questionably, indicating that I was curious at the last name, because again, you never know that feeling facts might be useful. "Floyd," he replied. "Do you mind if you point to which house?" asked the other officer. "Oh yes, that one," I said, pointing at the house across the street. "Okay, let's check it out." The two officers came back about 15 minutes later with an angry look on their face. "Sir, we examined the house," said Officer Floyd. "It's been abandoned for quite a while, based on the dust inside there." "That's impossible," I responded. "The lights were always on and that black car is always parked in the driveway." "Sir, it was dark in there," Floyd responded with a confused tone. "Were there no lights on or a car?" The officers shortly left and drove away. After they left, I went over there to check for myself. I knocked on the door and heard a noise. It was like a growl, but deeper. I knocked again and heard the growl once more, but only quieter and shorter. I slowly opened the door to my regret. It looked like any other house well kept, but no people were inside. "Hello?" I hopelessly said. My voice echoed more than I would have liked to. As I walked further and still nothing, I walked into another room where the door was out of sight. I heard a slight click. I looked over at the door and saw that someone had locked it. I quietly ran to the door and tried to unlock it, but it wouldn't budge. I frantically banged against the door. I was screaming for help, but no one had heard me. I ran over to the back of the door, but I tripped while running, not by a wire or a push, but by some force. That's all I remember. I woke up and my nose started itching really badly. I was in the same place where I fell, but this time the house was dark and dusty. I picked myself off the floor and looked around. I saw a chain on the floor about 5 feet away from me. I picked up the chain. It was very heavy. I noticed it went around the other room. I followed it with the chain pasting around my hand, turned to the corner of the room, and saw a box. I picked it up. It was light in weight. I opened the top and saw a key, which was very oddly shaped. I put this key in multiple doors, trying to figure out what it opened. I opened one door and dust flew out and ended up my nose. My nose started itching like crazy. I went inside the small room and it was bigger than a closet, but smaller than a bathroom. From the ceiling hung a note. I walked over to the note and read it. The note was stained with blood and hard to read, but I worked it out. "Dear fellow explorer, this house is probably filled with dust right now, but fear not, it is a fairly new house. The dust you see isn't actually dust. This house is actually filled with large amounts of tiny insects that will crawl up your nose, eyes, and ears and slowly tear your brain apart. You will drift in and out of reality. You might have seen a clean house, or perhaps even a retro house. But it doesn't matter. Those insects are getting to you. There are no antidote. You will slowly die there. Take care." I ran out two of the doors and smashed through the glass. The glass was so strong that I broke my hand. I fell over in pain. Then I passed out again. I woke up to the exact same clean house as before. I went over to the front door and walked out. It was unlocked. When I went home and went to bed and fell asleep, I woke up the next morning and felt nothing. Something inside of me had snapped. Nothing medical, but I didn't feel any emotion and I was dead. but my heart was still beating. My pulse was normal. I was breathing, but I was dead. I didn't know if it was real or fake. I was dead, being dead to some people, just like their life ending. My life never started. I was never born. This could be a dream, and you wouldn't know it. Your dreams could be real, and you wouldn't know it. This afternoon I woke up to a dusty house, and might wake up in a clean one. This is the definition of dead. So go on, scratch your nose, and keep telling yourself, it's just an itch.